Good morning, guys. Good to have you this morning, this Thursday morning, July 10th. It's 7:01 a.m. Again, I'm here in Branson, so we are on a little vacation this morning. Today, we are here for my daughter's national dance competition and spending a few days here just to get away with the family. I think it's very timely as it's right here preceding the campaign that's going to ramp up very quickly with a lot of moving parts. So really just taking time to soak it in with my family and enjoy Branson. So hope you're doing well. Hope you're doing well this morning. I get to sneak away to this little office here in our Airbnb and come to you, and it's a pleasure to do so. So I want to give you some highlights of, David, like I promised. We saw David at the Sight and Sound Theater, which was incredible. And I'll give you some highlights on that. Also some reminders of some upcoming events. And then today I want to really highlight DHS and a new project that I'm releasing this week. So stay tuned for all of that. But first, before I forget, this coming Monday over in Oklahoma City, Northwest Oklahoma City at Great Faith Church on Northwest Expressway, we are having another volunteer meeting, 6:30 p.m., go from 6:30 to 8. And I'm going to lay out a brief overview of my platform, and then we're going to talk about all of the opportunities to volunteer. So whether we're talking about door knocking or helping set up these Oklahoma Rising events that we're having all over the state, other opportunities to just engage with people and even host meet and greets at your home. So there's so many different ways to volunteer and be a part of this campaign. It's only growing in momentum, and it's exciting for me to watch it unfold, see the vision that God put in my heart for this begin to unfold as we step into it. And, we'll take this all the way to the seat, and it's exciting. And what's exciting is that it's not just me. Okay. It is truly a move of the people is what this thing is all about. So we're excited to see what God is doing here. But this Monday is another opportunity. If you want to jump on the train and be a part, we're going to have some others scheduled. We're working on time and location for Tulsa, for Norman, and some other locations around the states. But we have scheduled at least 9 different stops across the state for these Oklahoma Rising events. Now, I'll also be going to so many festivals, GOP events, OK2A events, some Rotary clubs, some, I'm there to go speak to people, to groups, big and small. So if you have a group and you'd love for me to come, just reach out to me, jake@jakemerrickforgovernor.com. Also check out the website, jakemerrickforgovernor.com, and go on there and endorse. There's a page for endorsements. You can go on there, type up your endorsement and hit submit, and join the others that are endorsing this campaign. So appreciate all of you who've already done that. So go to Jake Merrick for Governor, for is FOR, jakemerrickforgovernor.com, and go to that endorsements link. If you like what you see, endorse me. That makes a difference there. And then be sure to share. Okay, share this stream that I'm doing this morning. You can go ahead and hit share now, and it helps to open up the algorithms. Now, one thing I learned about when you transition to a professional Facebook page, which is what this is, a digital creator professional page, then your posts are not organically distributed. Okay. And they do that because they want you to buy ads. So what helps is whenever people like you listening share it. So it's not going to just be so widespread like it would be for a normal personal Facebook page. So I need your help to get the word out, to get this message out. So wherever you're listening to this at, just go ahead and share it and open up those algorithms. But lots of good things happening. Like I said, this Monday is the next volunteer meeting. We've got more scheduled. Chickasha is coming up September 6th. Okay, it's September 6th for Chickasha, Oklahoma. And we are going to be organizing and growing this Oklahoma Rising event that will take place September 6th. We had a great volunteer meeting last week. It was this week. It's been a long week. And had a great volunteer base there. We got people organized and in place to get ready for this Oklahoma Rising event coming up September 6th. So you can put that on your calendar as well. And the plan is then to hit Altus, Elk City, Woodward, Guyman, Enid. We're going to make the rounds all the way around, go to the east side of the state with Hugo and Durant and Ardmore and McAllister. So lots of big stops up ahead. But hope you all are doing well this morning. Like I said, I wanted to give you an update on David. We went and saw the big production at Sight and Sound Theater yesterday, and telling you what, it did not disappoint. If you've never been to Sight and Sound Theater in Branson, you need to go. It is phenomenal. The production, the actual venue is incredible, and they hit every part of it. The sight and the sound. They have live animals that are walking down the aisles right next to you. The actors and actresses come out into the audience, and it's just incredible. You can't describe it. So, but it told the story of David. Of course, we all think of David and Goliath, but it went further than that into David's sin. When he sinned with Bathsheba, committing adultery, then he took Bathsheba's husband Uriah and sent him to the front lines where the battle was the fiercest, and with the intention of having Uriah killed in battle to deal with his indiscretion and cover up his tracks. And so a big part of the message was David being a man after God's own heart, and the distinction between the ruler Saul, the first king of Israel, who also sinned against God, and God withdrew his spirit and rejected Saul as king. And then he turned to David, the most unlikely pick for the next king of Israel. And Samuel the prophet anointed him to be king. David, just like Saul, sinned against God, but the difference was his repentant heart. And David was able to acknowledge that he did wrong. Saul was full of excuses. David did not make excuses for his sins. He acknowledged it, asked for God to forgive him, to create in him a clean heart. And God did. He restored him, although he did have to suffer the consequences of his sin, with his first child dying, with lots of family division. And just like the prophet said, the sword would never leave his family. So they had a lot of long-lasting impacts because of David's sin, but he was retained as king. God kept him on the throne. He continued to prosper. He had Solomon, who became Israel's wisest, richest king. And so many great things followed, but it was because he was able to acknowledge his faults, repent, and ask God to cleanse him and restore him. So the big difference there between the first king and the second king of Israel was their willingness to acknowledge their mistakes and repent and turn back to God. So we saw that in David, and then just a powerful message of an invitation to allow God to do the same thing in you. And so to let him restore you, forgive you of your sins. And that's some amazing, I won't give every detail away in case you're going to go see it. You need to go see it. But just a powerful, powerful message, and timely for me as we're talking about, standing up against what appears to be insurmountable odds, coming in as the most unlikely candidate, yet full of faith. We know God is with us in this, that he's going ahead of us. He is preparing us. So it was just a timely message for us. But good to see you guys this morning. I see some of you on the comment section, others viewing, not commenting yet. But like I said in the intro, I do want to highlight today DHS and a new project I'm working on. So, as most of you know, I left the radio show, Freedom 96.9. I did my morning radio show from 7 to 8 a.m. Monday through Friday for 2.5 years. And it was an incredible experience, a tremendous blessing. And God really used it to refine me as well. But it came to a place where I needed to go all in for this campaign. And the agreement with the station was that as soon as I did and became a legally qualified candidate, then they would end the show to protect the station and their license. So I knew that I had reached a point where I needed to go all in. So I let them know. We ended the show. And I still get messages, ironically, saying, "Hey, where are you at? I tried to hear you on the station and I couldn't find you." Well, in case you're listening now, it's not there. Okay. I'm no longer on the radio, but I'm here every morning and I'm working on a couple of projects that I'm really excited about. One of those is a paneled show where it'll be me and 4 other guests. And these guests are experts in particular fields. So this last one that we had, that I just finished recording, is focusing on DHS, and it's appropriate that DHS was the first topic of discussion for this show because it's really where it all began for me. Where this political involvement began for us is when we first fostered our daughter, who's now 16. She came into our custody at 3. My wife had a previous relationship with her mom as her mentor. She was mentoring her in a homeless shelter. Long story there, but she mentored her for a while. Met our now daughter, Emmy, when she was 14 months old. And it was not long after she turned 3 that the mother called us and said that DHS had taken her. It was because she would leave Emmy in an apartment all day long. She would leave and do who knows what. While this little baby was there without food, without care, just screaming in a crib for hours on end. And after multiple complaints from the neighbors, so this had been going on for a long time, the cops came, kicked down the door, and took this baby, put it into state custody. So because of the prior relationship we had with her, we went to DHS and were given kinship. And so we were able to get her into our custody overnight, which is just a miracle in itself. But we fostered Emmy for 2 years, and through that time, witnessed the truly broken system that we have here in the state. We reported concerns about sexual abuse, and we were told, "Oh, no, that's normal." And we had to tell the caseworker, "No, this is not normal. In a normal, healthy family, this is not normal." And so we were very concerned, the things that they looked over and they considered to be okay. So we continued to contend for Emmy. And finally, the bio mom and bio dad, who proved they could not get and keep a job and could not or would not live up to the expectations of the state and the court, well, they finally relinquished their rights. And then we adopted Emmy when she was 5 years old. So many details that I could go on about. My wife was actually in heart failure in the hospital, about to give birth to our daughter, Adeline. And because she was in Dallas, she FaceTimed with the court, and over FaceTime, she was part of the adoption proceedings. And so we were able to adopt Emmy while my wife was over in the hospital about to give birth to our other. So just a crazy yet cool time. And that whole experience just fired us up to, first of all, pray for the families of Oklahoma and for 77 counties, and to seek reform. And we did not know this would lead to a political involvement at all. We were just praying for reform. And it's interesting sometimes that you are the answer to your own prayer, that you're praying for an answer and God raises you up to be the answer. It's a powerful thought, powerful reality. And so just prepare yourself. Oftentimes when you are confronted with evil and you are confronted with a problem in society, in your family, whatever it may be, in your business, when you begin to pray and contend for a solution, God may just raise you up to be that solution. And this is what we have witnessed God doing with us, is calling us into this political realm. We did not expect that to be the course of our life, but he called us into it. We willingly obeyed, because that's what our life is about, is obeying him and following him. And here we are now running for governor, and still the changes needed in DHS and child welfare have only grown. So I want to play you a few. Well, first of all, let me set this up. So I'm doing this new show, and I'm really excited about it. It's a paneled show. Like I said, I'll have 4 guests with me that are going to drill down on a particular issue impacting the state of Oklahoma. So whether it be cannabis or the turnpike or DHS, we're going to have people that have been intimately involved in the process and can speak to it with authority. And we're going to have this discussion and then drill down on the issue to discover solutions. So that's why I'm calling this one Drill Baby Drill. That's the name of the show. And I'm going to bring you some highlights from this show that will be released this Friday. Okay, so I'm releasing it this Friday. Want to bring you some highlights, and then today just have some discussion about some of the things we talked about on this show and why DHS reform is going to be a top priority for me when I'm elected governor. And so one thing I can guarantee is the system will not remain the same when I'm elected, that it will be massively reformed from the bottom up. And it may just be that the system needs to be demolished and rebuilt. DHS is wholly corrupt. I'm fully convinced of this. And it involves our court system, our family court system, our judicial process. There's just massive injustice and corruption happening in the system. I have a few stories here. I had 3 of my guests the other day on this show that I'll release on Friday. They tell their story in brief detail. You know, the first show is 45 minutes, and each one of these people could spend several hours telling their story. And one of the things I learned about this crisis of DHS is we start hearing people's stories, and they're by the hundreds. They're by the hundreds. And the detail and the years of battling the system is just heartbreaking. And so I'm going to bring you a few clips from the show that I will be releasing this Friday, so you can get ready for that. This is Drill Baby Drill. Here's a little intro.
It is time to Drill Baby Drill, the show that digs deep, cuts through the noise, and gets to the heart of the issues that matter most to us in our great state.
You like the picture?
I'm your host, Jake Merrick, and tonight we're bringing you a no-holds-barred discussion with a panel of top-notch experts who aren't afraid to tackle the toughest issues facing Oklahoma, from energy independence to education, Second Amendment rights to economic growth. We're going to drill down to uncover the truth, find real solutions, and fight for the values that make our state strong. So buckle up and let's get going. It's time to
Drill, baby, drill.
I'm excited about this, and I love the picture, right? Got the classic, iconic fight, fight, fight picture behind. And that's exactly what we're doing in this endeavor, is to fight for truth, to drill down on it. And you'll understand why as I show you some of these clips from the show. Like I said, I had 3 parents on this panel. They're more than, their personal experiences with DHS have driven them to, like me, get involved in the process. Oftentimes, this is the pattern, is because you are impacted in a certain realm, you say, you know what, this has to change, and then you end up being the change agent that God uses. And so we are seeing, we have 3 guests here who personally were impacted by the system. Now they are intimately involved in reform in different areas, different aspects. And so this is, let me just start here. where I want to start. Well, Roberta Lewis told her story, and I'll just give you a brief summary of it and then play a clip from her speaking about her personal experience. But essentially, her son, her 14-year-old son, recorded a video on Snapchat of him disassembling and reassembling a gun. And if you know Snapchat, the reason it became so popular is because you could send videos and pictures, and it would have a time limit. So after that time expired, it would disappear, and you could not recover it. So the FBI can't recover images that are deleted from Snapchat. And so that was the appeal of it. Is you could send stuff and then it would be deleted. And so he filmed himself taking apart this gun and putting it back together. And you'll hear in just a minute about their family culture. They're a military family. They have guns in their home. It's a common thing. They teach their kids gun safety, and they're not a big scary thing. Guns are just a tool that they know how to use, and I love that. And so her son posted this video. It went out on Snapchat. It was seen by a few students, then deleted. And rumor got around about the video, and based on the rumor, the school calls the mom, Roberta, and says, "Come pick up your son. There's a rumor of a video involving a gun, and you need to come get him before this gets out of hand." And evidently they were just on the verge of Christmas break. And they said, come get him, take him home early before this spreads like wildfire. Go to Christmas break. We'll come back and start fresh after the break. So she comes, and she's met with authorities who then take her to court. And all of this happened within just hours. Okay. So they immediately take her, question her, take her downstairs to this courtroom where a judge is called in. She comes in to address this case. They immediately call DHS. Caseworkers show up at her house. She's sent back home. Caseworkers are there to investigate her home. And then she's mandated to take her son to a mental institute. I mean, and all of this happened within a short period of time, hours. And all of a sudden, her son, her 14-year-old son, is in a mental institute based on a video that was never even seen by any authority. I mean, tremendous violation of due process, of individual rights and liberties. And it's just the grace of God that kept her son sane for the 14 days he was in this mental institute. And finally getting out, and she's still, now her son is 18 years old, she's still fighting for justice. So, well, I just want you to hear a bit from her telling her story.
Now, was the culture in your family, I mean, you guys collect guns, obviously, and he was obviously familiar with it, comfortable with it.
Yes.
So, I mean, talk to me just briefly about the culture in your home as far as like, where are the boundaries? How are guns kept and things like that?
I
So
believe you're a military vet,
So
correct?
we're a military family.
Makes a difference, yeah.
We're a military family. I'm a veteran. My son's dad is a veteran. My oldest son, he's 25. He's a veteran and a police officer. And so we play with guns in our family. From a young age, if you can walk, you're in the woods hunting in the fall. In the springtime, you're out there looking for turkey. And so guns are not anything. I mean, you come to my house, you're going to see a gun, and that's
Right.
how it is.
And that's the way it should be. If you want guns, you should be able to have them. And you, as the parent, are responsible for teaching your children how to use them safely, which they did. And the child was so comfortable, the 14-year-old, I hate to say child, the 14-year-old, it wasn't that long ago in our American culture that a 14-year-old was expected to enlist in the militia and be responsible for helping protect the local community. Okay. Now they're thrown into mental institutes for showing a video on disassembling and reassembling it. Just insane where we're at. So that was a bit of her story. And I want to play a few more clips from this very impactful interview I had with 4 individuals on this paneled show. It's coming out this Friday, called Drill Baby Drill. I'll be posting the link soon, but wanted to give you a little preview today. Here's a little bit more.
You see, it's the overlap of courts.
Mhm.
It's the overlap of NGOs that work with them in all of these forensic interviewing. I had the privilege of telling Roberta's story with her son, and it was the school system. The school system, the day before this incident happened, had put out a warning about some kind of a social media trend that had to do with guns. So everybody was heightened, and then all of a sudden this happens. So you saw that coming in. Law enforcement is a big part of this. There's a lot of confusion about what law enforcement should be doing and should not be doing, and they are sometimes complicit with this, and then sometimes prevented from doing their jobs with this.
So many different aspects of this. And like I said, the experts that I'm here interviewing offer tremendous insight. There was a father here, his name is Daryl Doherty, and he tells his story with his son that he has been fighting DHS with for years. It's insane how long these things go on. So much for quick justice. So I want you to hear a few clips from his story.
And I said, when is my son going in for his forensic interview? And she said, well, he's already been in for his forensic interview. I said, are you kidding me? Who took him in? And she said, well, we're not going to talk about that. And she moved on. So I called the civil center again and I said, hey, was my kid in for a forensic interview? And can he have counseling now again? Like, can we get him some help? So they did. They started counseling with him again. They were really awesome. And I said, who was the officer there? And they said, there was no officer here.
Wow.
I'm like, what's going on? A year later, a third time, a call was made in.
So what you see over and over again in all of these stories are parents who are kind of blindsided by this whole process. And just like most of you listening today, you've never been through this. You don't know what the rules are, what the laws are. So you're trusting the authorities. Talking to Roberta, who gave the testimony of her son with the gun, she didn't understand what the process was. So she was just trusting the authorities. Little did she know the authorities were leading her to the lion's den. And same with Daryl, he's asking, trusting them. Okay, so is this, what do I do next? And they're like, okay, well, this is next. And bringing his toddler son into a forensic interview, not even alerting him to it. Like you saw in that clip, he was said, wait, my son was interviewed? When was he interviewed? And things like this are constantly happening with gross violations of individual rights. Here's a little bit more with Daryl's story.
At that point, my son went silent because he was forced into, he said he just wanted to live with his daddy, and his stomach hurts when he has to go to his other home, but he doesn't want to say why. And after that, he knew not to talk because he was afraid it'd get worse. This last year, he was deemed to be mature and articulate enough to speak on behalf of himself, and he did. And the courts still said they needed to go with the fraudulent statements of the DHS workers to determine where he should land.
It's just a heartbreaking story as you hear from these parents whose families have been ripped apart and children violated and forced into more trauma by the system itself. This was an astonishing testimony here that I'm about to play concerning the caseworker who interviewed his son. Well, just listen to what he had to say.
When I did, a caseworker came out. He was a new caseworker, and he, when he came out of the interview, he was crying, and he promised me he'd give my kid some help.
The caseworker was crying,
Yeah.
or the forensic interviewer.
The caseworker.
The caseworker.
There was a forensic specialist, child counselor that did the interview.
Okay.
And he tells a story later on that even though the caseworker came out crying, saying, we're going to get your son some help, he later said, oh, there was nothing there. And Daryl said, but why were you crying coming out of the interview saying you're going to get my son help if now you're saying there was nothing there? and just the constant contradiction and attempts to cover up their own tracks and preserve the system itself rather than helping the children. And listen to this shocking claim.
The city the city attorney for the city of Stillwater walked across the street to my business, handed me an envelope that had the OCCY report in it, said, "It's illegal for me to give you this. I'm going to have to resign my position, but you deserve to have it."
Wow.
So you had a city attorney willing to give up his career in order to expose the truth, expose corruption. So Daryl has lots of things going on right now that's about to blow the lid off some things. And you'll be able to hear the full story on this project I'm releasing on Friday. Julie asked, where will I be releasing the link? I'll release it on YouTube, on Facebook, on TikTok, on X. I'll be releasing it everywhere, so you won't miss it. I'll also be sending out my newsletter email as well. So if you're not on that, email me at jake@jakemerrickforgovernor.com, and I'll be sure to add you to that email list. So like I said, whenever we had our daughter and we're fostering her, we had some big red flags about some abuse that we suspected. We notified DHS and we called our caseworker. Our caseworker said, "Oh, that's normal." And I'm like, no. Yeah, I mean, I don't even feel comfortable telling you what we saw, what we witnessed, and the caseworker saying, "Oh, that's normal." And we had to inform the caseworker, "No, that's not normal." And Daryl has a similar testimony here.
Who is the oversight of DHS, looks into DHS, checks the case. While that happened, and there was another call into Oklahoma DHS, I was not notified. I was not told about it. DHS caseworker randomly reaches out on a Friday and says, "I'm going to be at your house in an hour to talk to you about your son's case." And I said, "What case?" So she comes to my house and she goes, "Look, we've interviewed your child again. He made some complaints about some inappropriate touching, but nothing to the extent that you said from the first time." I said, "It wasn't anything I said from the first time. He gave his own forensic interview." She said, "He made no disclosures." I said, "Did you see it?" She said, "No." This lady told me a mom tickling a little boy's genitals isn't a concern for DHS. So don't bring that up again.
And there we are. And so what is concerning to DHS? Evidently things like a 14-year-old in his own home disassembling and reassembling a firearm that he's very familiar with is concerning enough to throw him in a mental institute. Yet clear signs of sexual abuse are just dismissed. Very concerning. Had Katie from Visit. She's an investigative journalist doing great things. You can look at her Substack at visit.substack.com. That's V1SUT. That's how you spell visit. Go check it out. Good stuff. And so she recently had an article about a very disturbing situation where we had a homosexual couple, two men who adopted a little boy. One of the men in this relationship was later convicted of, not convicted, but accused of molesting a separate little boy on a cruise ship. And then other accusations came out. He ended up committing suicide. And even after all of that, it was never looked into the situation at home to see if the little boy who had been adopted had been abused. And there are just so many details of that story. But she was here as part of this panel. I definitely consider her an expert when it comes to DHS. And well, this is some of what she had to add to the conversation.
You have so much power over other humans. And when government grows and those layers grow, they start to really step on people's rights. The strange thing is, too, child welfare services is kind of a new thing. It's only been around for, about 50 years. In about the 70s, the states were passing these laws, putting child welfare systems into their states. Before that, churches dealt with these things. We had different services in the community. Once it became a government thing, it became very heavy-handed.
Yeah, I so appreciated that insight she brought there, that point. We have become so accustomed to this idea that the government handles child welfare issues, but this is a very recent new thing. And maybe we have to start asking the question, is it necessary at all? If more corruption is now being now the result of it, and are we truly helping children and families, or are we causing more damage? I ask the question, does it need to exist at all? And maybe if it does need to exist, it does not need to exist in its current form. And like I said earlier, one thing I will guarantee is that when I'm elected governor, the system will change, that this will not go on. I don't know why it's being allowed to go on right now. So right now, this is also Katie speaking about how DHS is entirely unaccountable.
So qualify that. I mean, how are they completely unaccountable?
Well, DHS has been sued many, many times, and no one's been a family's never been successful in a suit against DHS. So they are essentially, by state law, indemnified in their actions, which is incredibly frustrating for families. But when you see the way that this happens, where a family's most fundamental right is taken away, the right to raise your own children, they can reach into your family, take your child, and they can keep your child.
That's it. It is about money, Nikki. I see you there. Also going through your own battle, praying for you and your family as well. So it has to change. It will change. And, this will help, though, too. Sharing this video. I'm going to release this upcoming show, Drill Baby Drill, that I'm excited about. We're going to be exposing things right and left and drilling down on real solutions. Okay, so don't miss that. I'll be posting that link soon. I'm going to have to hop off here. I see. I try to keep these around 30 minutes, and we're at 37. But also, my battery's about dead on my laptop, so I better hop off before it ends for me. But thank you guys for hopping on this morning. And be sure to share this once again. Get this word out there. And please, if you are interested in being a part of the change for the future of Oklahoma and for our children, if you want to jump on this campaign, go to jakemerrickforgovernor.com. You can go to the endorsements page. You can endorse me. You can reach out to me, jake@jakemerrickforgovernor.com. That's my email for this campaign. And we'll get you signed up as a volunteer. There are so many ways to volunteer and help, but we have a lot of great things happening. So get on board. Let's do this. I'm in this for real change. I am not in this to maintain the status quo or just have a position. I'm in this for this is one of the primary reasons I even got into politics, is to reform DHS. So you can guarantee it's going to happen. All right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. I really appreciate you. Leslie just posted the link to my website there, jakemerrickforgovernor.com. Check that out. Also, this Monday, we have our next volunteer meeting, 6:30 p.m. at Great Faith Church on Northwest Expressway. Hope to see you there. God bless you guys. We'll see you.